The State Legislative Council, also known as the Vidhan Parishad, is the upper house in the bicameral legislature of some states in India, modeled after the Rajya Sabha. At the central level, the council plays an advisory and reviewing role in the legislative process of the state. Currently, six states are having a legislative council. They are Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Karnataka. While not all Indian states have a legislative council, those that do follow a bicameral system include both the state legislative assembly Vidhan Sabha and the state legislative council. Bicameralism in the states is seen as a way to provide broader representation and allow for more detailed scrutiny of legislative matters. State Legislative Council constitutional provisions. The constitutional framework governing the State Legislative Council is primarily detailed in Article 169, 171 and 172 of the Indian Constitution. These articles outline the establishment, composition and duration of the council. Article 169, it grants Parliament the authority to create or abolish a state legislative council by a simple majority contingent upon a resolution passed by the state's legislative assembly by a special majority. However, the resolution passed by the legislative assembly is not binding on Parliament. Article 171, it outlines the composition of state legislative council. Article 172, it addresses the duration of the council, indicating that its members serve for 6 years with one-third of them retiring every 2 years. State Legislative Council composition. Under Article 171 of the Constitution, the Legislative Council of the state is composed of a maximum of one-third of the total strength of the state assembly, with a minimum requirement of 40 members. The Legislative Council of every state shall choose 2 members of the council to be respectively chairman and deputy chairman. If the offices of chairman or deputy chairman becomes vacant, the council shall choose another member to be chairman or deputy chairman. State Legislative Council manner of election. All members of the Legislative Council are either indirectly elected or nominated by the governor. The manner of the election is as follows. One-third is elected by electorates consisting of members of municipalities, district boards and such other local authorities in the state. One-third elected by the members of the Legislative Assembly from among persons who are not assembly members. 1/12 elected by graduates of 3 years standing residing in the state. 1/12 elected by teachers of secondary schools having at least 3 years of experience. 1/6 nominated by the governor for their expertise in fields like literature, science, art, social service or cooperative movement. State Legislative Council eligibility and tenure. Tenure for members of the Legislative Council is established at 6 years, similar to the Rajya Sabha and the upper house of Parliament. In the State Legislative Council, one-third of the members retire every 2 years, creating a staggered retirement system that fosters continuity within the council. The following is the list of qualification criteria for a candidate to be a member of the State Legislative Council as prescribed in Article 173. Must be a citizen of India, at least 30 years old. He should possess such other qualification as may be prescribed on that behalf by or under any law made by Parliament. Additionally, the Representation of People Act of 1951 provided the following qualification criteria. A person must be an elector for any assembly constituency in the state. To be qualified for the governor's nomination, he must be a resident of that state. State Legislative Council position vis-a-vis State Legislative Assembly. The constitutional position of the State Legislative Council with the State Legislative Assembly can be analyzed from two perspectives: areas where the Council has equal powers with the Assembly and areas where it holds lesser authority. While both houses play a role in the legislative process, the Assembly generally holds greater influence and control over legislative matters. Equal with Assembly. Areas where the powers and status of the Legislative Council are broadly equal to those of the Assembly are ordinary bills. Both houses can introduce and pass ordinary bills. However, if there is a disagreement, the will of the Assembly prevails. Approval of ordinances. The Council shares the responsibility of approving ordinances issued by the governor. Selection of ministers. Ministers, including the chief minister, can be members of either house, but they are accountable solely for the Assembly. Reports of constitutional bodies. The Council has the authority to consider reports from bodies such as State Finance Commission and State Public Service Commission. Jurisdiction of State Public Service Commission. The Council participates in the enlargement of the jurisdiction of the State Public Service Commission unequal with the Assembly. In most of the matters, the Legislative Council has powers that are inferior to those of the Assembly. The instances where the Legislative Council enjoys inferior power are as follows. Introduction of money bills. Money bills can only be introduced in the Assembly. The Council cannot amend or reject them and must return such bills within 14 days either with or without recommendation. Recommendation on money bills. The Assembly can accept or reject all or any recommendation made by the Council regarding money bills. Determination of money bills. The final decision on whether a bill qualifies as a money bill lies with the Speaker of the Assembly. Passing ordinary bills. The Assembly has the final authority on ordinary bills. The Council can delay or detain a bill for a maximum of 4 months but is not a revising body like the Rajya Sabha. Budget discussion. While the Council can discuss the budget, it cannot vote on demands for grants, which is an exclusive right of the Assembly. No confidence motion. The Council cannot remove the Council of Ministers through a no confidence motion. However, the Council can discuss and criticize government policies. Bill rejection. If an ordinary bill originating from the Council is rejected by the Assembly, the bill is considered dead. Election participation. The Council does not participate in the election of the President of India or the election of the Rajya Sabha. Constitutional amendment. The Council has limited influence over the ratification of constitutional amendment bill where the Assembly's will prevails. Existence of the Council. The existence of the Council depends on the will of the Assembly as it can be abolished by Parliament based on the Assembly's recommendation. State Legislative Council role. Despite having fewer powers compared to the State Legislative Assembly, the State Legislative Council serves several important functions that contribute to the legislative process and governance. The key roles of the Legislative Council include the following. Quality control of legislation. The Council plays a crucial role in reviewing and revising legislation passed by the Assembly. It acts as a check against hasty, defective or poorly considered laws by allowing for a thorough examination and debate. Representation of experts. The Governor nominates 1/6 of the members of the Council from among individuals with expertise in various fields such as education, science, art and social service. This provision allows for valuable insights and contributions from those with significant experience and knowledge in reaching the legislative discussions. Political stability. As a permanent chamber, the State Legislative Council contributes to political stability within the state. Unlike the State Legislative Assembly, which is dissolved every 5 years, the Council maintains continuity. This permanence allows for consistent oversight of legislation and governance even during changes in the Assembly.